Hello everyone, today we continue learning Python, and today I'll show you how to use setItem and getItem functions in Python. So let's start. But before we start that video, I recommend you subscribing to my Telegram channel. You will find lots of materials, modules, libraries, examples and tasks on Python in my Telegram channel. Also, I post all the announcements there, so if you want to understand what will happen to the channel in the near future, you can go here. And I respond to comments much faster than I do it on YouTube. So subscribe to my Telegram channel, link in the description down below. First of all, let's make a class called superList, like that. And what I want to do inside of here, I want to use init with self and data as a tuple. First of all, if you want to use mutable argument, you should not do it, because if you will use self data as a list from data, and you might have a question, why can't we use self data as an argument with the default value as a list? Well, we cannot do that. Why? Because if we do so, then every object of superList class, every instance, will have the same shared list. So for example, A equals list from 1 to 3 in list, like that, and B, I use lists just to show you, and B from, for example, 1 to 5, these lists will have the same result. So if I will call print A, I'll see 1 to 3, 1 to 5, if I use data as a list, like that. But that's not what we want. We want different objects for every instance of our superList class. And because of that, you should never assign default arguments as mutable objects in Python. And because of that, I will just put tuple, because tuple it's an immutable object. Okay, now what I'm doing here, I have my superList class, and inside of its init, I accept data with the default value as an empty tuple. And then I use self-data from list data. So I translate my data to a list of the data. Why is that beneficial? Because if, for example, somebody tries to make object equals superList from a set, 1, 2, 3, 4, sets have different functions from lists. So for example, if you want to add some values to a set, then you should use .add. But in lists, we use .append. And because of that, if you have the same type for every object, then in every function of superList, it will be much more easier for you to work with your data. I think you understand that. And by the way, if somebody passes 1 right here, I'll see the error immediately, because I cannot translate 1 to a list. Okay, but let's pass a simple list inside of here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then let's print our object. We'll see that. That is not pretty convenient. First of all, if you haven't seen my last video about Python operators, then you should watch it. But in that video I said, and by the way, that is the second part. In that video I said that if you want to represent an object for the client, so we act as a client, then you can use str function, str magic function. So we have double underscore or dunder and dunder right here. What we can do, we can return a string right here, and print implicitly uses str from object function. So str from object function calls that str magic function inside of our class. And because of that, what we can do is use just return, for example, f string super a list from self.data. So I kind of inserting self data inside of superList. I think you know that. Now let's remove str from object and let's run it again. As you can see, superList 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we implicitly used str from object, we called that, and we received that string. That is much more convenient for us and for other programmers, and for everybody actually. So what I want to do today? Today I want to discuss define getItem and setItem functions. First of all, let's talk about getItem. So imagine that we want to get the first value of our list. So the value with the index 0. What I should do? Object from 0. Yeah, that's it. Let's run it again, and we'll receive an error. We receive an error because we don't have getItem function yet. Yeah, you know we can use self object.data from 0, but that's not, again, that's not very convenient, because if we have self-data number 2, self-data number 3, self-dictionary, self I don't know, set, and so on. So if we have lots of data and lots of arrays and so on, then we cannot work with our object data to object data to free and so on, because that is not comfortable for us. Because of that, we have getItem function in Python. GetItem function is called when we use object from brackets and some value inside of it. As you can see, it's a magic function, because again, donders. We can see self, normal argument for object-oriented programming in Python, and then we can see item. So what is item? Item, it's the value you pass inside of these brackets. So for example, if I return item right here, let's run it again, we receive 0, because I pass 0 in here. If I pass 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for example, I will see 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's how it works. So item, it's the value you pass inside. And we can pass integers, or we can pass not only integers, we can pass strings, actually every object in Python, even your own objects. For example, string from key, and we receive key, because item is a string key right now. Okay, but let's talk about integers at first. What do we have here, or what we can do? Self.data from item. Let's run it again, and we receive 1. Why? Because when we call object getItem from 0, we go right here, and we use our own list from that index, so from the index 0. Self-data is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 list, and on the index 0 we have 1 as the value, and because of that we receive 1. If I will call 3, for example, we receive 4. If I will call 30, for example, we receive an error, because again we use self-data from item, and lists by default return these errors. That is much more convenient than just using object.data from item and so on. That's how we can use it. For example, if you have a dictionary inside of your superlist class, or if you have something where you have string keys, what you can do is use, for example, if item equals key, and then return self.data. Let's call not key but all. If item equals all, return self-data. And when I'll pass, for example, 0, I'll receive my 1. But if I'll pass all, I'll receive the whole list. That's how it works. So we can put specific behaviors in your getItem function. But you should always put one type of behavior if you work with indexes. So that is a key, string, but that is an index, integer, or any value actually. That just not shows you the key, but you know what I mean. What we should follow? Let's remove, or I'll leave if item equals all, but what we should add to our behavior. I think lots of you know about slices in Python. So for example, from 0 to 5 with the step as 2. Let's run it, and as you can see, 1, 3, 5. Everything seems to work successfully, but there is an error. What's that error? When we use superlist function or superlist class, we want that type of class to be returned when we use slices. So again, that is a slice. And if I use object from a slice, I need to return superlist with the data of that slice inside of it. But we return a list. And that's a problem, because if, for example, I make it a module, well, imagine, you're working with NumPy module. NumPy module, it's a module for arrays, math, and so on. And at some point, you receive not the NumPy array, but you receive a list. That's not how it works, because if I work with superlist, I want to receive superlist instances. And because of that, what we can do is use elif in our case, or if you don't have item as all or any other ifs. What you can do, elif is instance item, comma slice, and let's pass. So instance function will return either true or false. It will return true if item is slice. So for example, if I'll pass 0, just 0, let's copy it. Let's copy it. If I pass 0, that will return false, because item is not a slice, it's an integer. But if I put 052, a slice, that will return true. Is will return true. And because of that, what we can do is use return super list from self data from item. It may seem complex, but that's a simple construction. So what are we doing here? If our item is slice, then we return super list from self data from item. So we get that 135 slice, and we put that slice inside of our super list, inside of a new brand super list, or brand new super list. And then we use define init in here, and we provide the slice as a list inside of our super list class. And yeah, actually, that's it. So let's call object from 052, let's run it, and as you can see, super list 135. But if I'll call just from 0, for example, then as you can see, 1. If I'll call from all, then as you can see, the whole list. That's how it works. By the way, you should not always try to make a super list. Why? Because imagine again, you're working with NumPy library, and at some point you want to get the first integer, yeah? The first integer. You put NumPy, actually I forgot, but okay, you put that get item, and get item returns super list from just 1. Like that. That's not what we want. I think you understand. And because of that, when you just use row keys or row indexes, you should return a row value in what type it was provided to you. In our case, we have integers right here, but if I'll use true, then I'll use 0. By the way, it works with true, it's not only integers, I think you understand that, but if I'll provide object as 1, I should return, my getItem function should return a boolean. But if I use object 1, 10, minus 1, yeah, then I return, okay, 1, just 1. Then I should get super list, because that is how it works. Yeah, that is how it works. That's it about getItem function. So if you want, you may use tuples, lists, everything as an item. But typically, you use strings or integers, because that's how Python list uses integers, Python set uses integers, Python tuple uses integers, and so on. But Python dictionary uses strings. So these are two main types, I think. But you can use anything. So you can provide, for example, I don't know, tuple inside of here, 1 to 3. Let's run. Okay, we'll receive an error, but I think that you know that you can append one if and then work with that tuple. But again, typically you have strings or integers. Now, what I want to do, let's put the whole list, so object, just object, and then let's print, or not, let's just put object from 0 equals 10. I just want to reassign the value. Let's run, we receive an error. Why? Because superList object does not support item assignment. What does that mean? That means that now our superList object is not editable. We cannot edit it. Well, actually we can by using .data right here, and we'll receive superList, but I think you know what I mean. And how we can work with indexes or values with keys when we use assignments. We can use define setItem with key and value inside. So setItem, it's a function that is called when you use these structures. But when you use these structures, so when you get the value, you use getItem. But when you set the value, you use setItem. Getters and setters in every programming language, actually. In almost every programming language. Okay, so setItem has two arguments inside of it, key and value. Let's print both of them, key, then value. Let's run. And as you can see, 0, 10. Oh, what's with my mouse? 0, 10. If I'll call hell, for example, and then, I don't know, tuple, let's run. As you can see, hell, 1, 2, 3. Okay, hello, yes, hello, 1, 2, 3. That's how it works. So what is key? Key, again, it's the value that you provide inside of your brackets. But value, it's the value after the equal sign. So in our case, it's a tuple 1, 2, 3. That's easy. And for example, what we can do here is use self data from key equals value, like that. Let's run it again, and as you can see, list, and yeah, because we use like a string inside of here, but object 0 equals 1 to 3. We had 1, but now we have 1 to 3 inside of here, or we can just simply put 10, for example. Let's run. As you can see, everything works. I can also put slices inside of here. So for example, from 0 to 10 with step as 2. Let's run. Must assign iterable to extend slice. Oh yes, because I assign just a simple variable, but what I need to do is assign, for example, 10 by 100. So I'll make a list that has 100 values, and every value is 10. Okay, let's run. Attempt to assign secret to the... Oh, self-data. What is self-data? Why do we receive that error? 0, 10, 2. Oh yeah, because the value. But actually, why do we receive that error? I think that's because of the step. Let's run it again. And yeah, now everything works. But if I'll put 10, everything works. Yes, that was because of the step. Yeah. Why we received that error? Because when we use step, we receive 1, then the step is 2, 3, 5. But I wanted to assign 100, so list as 100 with the step. There is no possible solution for that, because what I want to do, I want to assign that as 100, or that, or that. So I think you know what I mean. But if I assign from 0 to 10, what I can do is just put that, and here we have our 110s. That's how it works. So in our case, we don't need to use elif is instance item slice. Why? Because set item function only sets your values, and who cares if you set super list, tuple, or list? The only thing that people care about is that you set your values properly. And in our case, we just use list inside of here. But if you want to ban slices from your super list object, then what you can do is use is instance key slice. So again, key slice, and then return or raise type error, for example. Raise type error, like that. And now when I try to put a slice in here, I'll receive an error. But if I try to put 0, for example, I'll receive my list. That's how it works. So that is cool. Set item function is a very cool one. And again, you can use multiple ifs inside of here. Elif key equals all again. All, then self data equals value, for example, or a list from value, because again, we want to work with lists in every part of our code. And because of that, I want to use list as value from here. Now let's run, for example, object from all equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like that. We'll run, and now, yeah, because I forgot to use else right here, so I'm trying to assign self-data at first, but then self-data from key. And that's not how it works. Let's put else right here, and let's run it again. Now, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everything works correctly. And actually, that's it. So you can use different values, actually all of the values, your own classes, your own objects, as keys, values, and items in both of these functions. But again, follow the instructions Python gives you. So for example, if you use slices, then return a new object from with that slice inside of it. And yeah, so today we talked about getItem and setItem function. And by the way, the only rule left is when you use getItem, for example, you don't need to print something, or you don't need to, I don't know, create a database or create a table inside of the database, because getItem, it's a function that is used when you get items. You should not make a very special behavior for your getItem function, or your for setItem function, or for a string function, because these functions are in Python and you should use them properly. Today we did that. So the only question that I have is item as all, or item as all, because not everybody uses that and not everybody will understand that, but still we used them properly. So in getItem we returned self-data from item and return slice from superlist, and in setItem we set our values and we banned our slices. That's how it works. So that's everything I wanted to tell you today, and good luck.